When my husband and I moved to New York City in our 40s, I thought we were chasing a new experience, a different skyline, new energy, maybe a little adventure. But I didn't realize I was about to rebuild the way I live, think, and see myself. I quit my job, we sold our house and our cars, and traded stability for something completely unknown. Everything was different. We were starting from scratch. We didn't know a single person, and we were walking everywhere. We traded predictability for possibility. This changed me in ways I didn't see coming. Today, I'm sharing what I've learned since moving here. Lessons that changed not just my address, but my entire outlook on life. So if you're standing on the edge of a change, whether it's considering a move, a new career, or simply a new way of thinking, maybe you'll see a little of your own story in mine. Change is uncomfortable, and that's where the growth hides. When everything around you is new, you don't get to stay the same. I went from predictability to a completely different rhythm. Every day felt like a crash course in how to live differently. Even the most ordinary things took effort. Take, for instance, grocery shopping at Trader Joe's. It's a full on urban sport. Lines wrap around the store, the aisles are packed, there's carts everywhere, and everyone is moving with purpose. By the time I bought my groceries and lugged the bags home, I felt oddly accomplished. That's the thing. Every little challenge stacks proof that you can handle more than you thought. And then there were experiences I'd always wanted to try, but never quite let myself. For me, that was reformer Pilates. For years, I was too nervous to try, thinking I couldn't keep up with such a challenging workout. But something about this city, the movement, the momentum, the permission to reinvent yourself, gave me the courage to finally do it. Those first few classes were humbling, but also kind of electric. I could feel myself getting stronger, inside and out. And I realized it wasn't really about the workout. It was about reclaiming a part of myself, the part that craved challenge, strength, and something new. In a way, stepping onto that reformer for the first time felt like stepping into my next chapter. And moments like that build quiet confidence. You start realizing that you're adapting because competence isn't something that you find, it's something that you build one small win at a time. And that's how it happened for me. Not through one big moment, but through countless tiny ones. Showing up differently, doing things on my own, and trying new routines. Each one reminded me I could handle more than I thought. But then came the curveball. I didn't get the corporate job that I wanted right after we moved. At the time, the job represented something familiar, something I could hold on to when everything else in my life felt brand new. When it didn't happen, it felt like a failure, like I'd stepped off a path I knew how to walk. But since then, I've learned that progress rarely looks like you imagine. And that no became a turning point. It nudged me towards writing, towards YouTube, and towards a version of myself I would have never met if everything had gone right. Sometimes the plan that falls apart is really just clearing space for the life that's waiting for you. And living in this city taught me that lesson again and again. Because when you move to a place like New York, where everything and everyone moves fast, you realize that staying grounded is not automatic. You have to choose it. And in the city that never pauses, that choice becomes its own kind of discipline. Now, I've heard them say that New York is the city that never sleeps, and that's mostly true. It doesn't slow down, it doesn't wait for you to catch up, and you realize pretty quickly that no one's going to carve out a spot for you. If you want to belong here, you have to make it happen yourself. That's where the next lesson comes in. Community doesn't find you, you have to build it. When I moved here, I didn't know a single person. There were days it felt like the city was moving around me, fast, loud, and unstoppable. And I was just standing still, trying to find my footing. And honestly, it can be lonely. In a city with millions of people, it's easy to feel invisible, especially when you're not walking into an office every day or surrounded by familiar faces. That was a really big adjustment for me. But if you want connection, you have to create it. You have to put yourself out there. And so I did. Networking events, volunteering, even what I call friend matchmaking. None of it came naturally, but slowly those efforts turned into real relationships. The kind that make a city of 8 million people feel a little more like home. The next realization came not from the noise, but from the quiet in between. You have to find your own rhythm. In a place that moves at full speed, calm doesn't come naturally. You have to create it. For me, it's morning walks in Central Park with my husband and our dog. Before the rush begins, the park feels like another world, quiet and almost sacred. It's our time to talk, to reset, and to just be. Those walks remind me that peace isn't something you find by escaping the world. It's something you make space for within it. And that sense of calm forced me to reflect on how often we confuse busyness with purpose. When I finally slowed down enough to notice, I saw how much energy I was spending trying to keep up when I didn't really need to. And I realized you simply don't have to do it all. In a place that offers everything, every restaurant, every show, every opportunity, it's easy to feel like you're missing out and have a little FOMO. But the truth is, you can't do it all, and you're not supposed to. Because when you stop trying to do it all, you finally make space for what really matters. Living here has taught me that success isn't about keeping up. It's about keeping true to your pace, your priorities, and your peace. One of the biggest gifts of this chapter has been realizing that it's okay to outgrow past versions of yourself. Before I moved to New York, my identity was so tied to achievement, titles, routines, and doing things the right way. But starting over gave me permission to rewrite the story. Here, I became more independent. I started speaking up for myself, not from a defensiveness angle, but from clarity. I began asking, what do I actually want? And not what's expected of me. It all goes back to that idea of borrowed value and making sure you're living on your own terms. And if you haven't watched that video yet, you can click up here to learn more. Because when you strip away the noise of who you think you should be, you finally start hearing the voice of who you really are. And that's where the next lesson comes in. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's connection. When you start over, you have to let people in. You have to be honest about when you're struggling and brave enough to ask for help. That didn't happen overnight for me. It took time and a lot of humility to open up. But every time I did, the connections that followed were deeper, more real, and more human. And in a city where everyone seems to be chasing something, that kind of authenticity is rare. And it's really everything. Still, comparison always has a way of creeping in, and you can't escape it. In this city, talent and success are everywhere you look. You're simply surrounded by it. At any age, in any field, someone is always doing something incredible. But comparison steals joy faster than anything else. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Comparison is the thief of joy. So I keep my focus where it belongs, on my own growth, my own timing, and my own version of success. Because when you stop comparing your chapter to someone else's, you finally have the freedom to write your own story. And in that freedom, you rediscover possibility, the space to evolve, to create, and to start again. This journey has shown me that some lessons only come when you're brave enough to begin again. I truly believe that you can reinvent yourself at any age. Moving here shifted something inside of me. I started saying yes to the things that had always lived quietly in the back of my mind, like writing. I'd always loved it, but it was something I never gave myself permission to fully pursue. After we moved, that changed. The city's energy, the creativity, the fast pace, the feeling that anything is possible gave me the courage to take it seriously. Writing led me to YouTube, and YouTube led me to an entirely new sense of purpose. It reminded me that growth doesn't stop when you reach a certain age or stage. It just starts to look different. It's less about chasing the next big thing and more about aligning your life with what actually lights you up. And that shift from proving yourself to trusting yourself can change the course of your life. Belief is the ultimate game changer. But remember, belief in yourself is not built overnight. Life tests you constantly. It demands grit, patience, and a sense of humor. But every time you rise to the challenge, it mirrors your strength right back to you. You start realizing, I can do hard things. I can do new things. And I can build a life that feels like mine. Because when you stay open to new possibilities is when the magic happens. Some of my favorite moments here were the ones that I never planned. Spontaneous conversations, creative sparks, little twists of fate that remind me the universe is always conspiring in your favor when you stay receptive. The one memory that stands out most was watching the sunrise from the top of the Empire State Building. The city stretched out beneath me, endless, alive, and full of possibility. I remember thinking how small I am in the grand scale of it all, and yet how powerful it feels to even play a tiny part in something so big. Because that's what transformation really is. It's not about changing who you are, but stepping fully into it. Owning your value, trusting your instincts, and creating a life that feels aligned and not assigned. When I look back, moving to New York didn't just change where I lived. It changed how I live. It taught me to bet on myself, to keep evolving, and stop waiting for perfect timing. So if you're standing at the edge of change, whether it's a move, a new career, or a new way of thinking, take the leap. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just start. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is answer the whisper that says, maybe there's more waiting for me. Thank you so much for tuning in and leveling up with me today. If this video resonated, please take a second to like it down below. It really helps more people find this channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe for new videos. Every Wednesday, I post videos about growth, mindset, and living in alignment. And on Mondays, it's Meditation Monday with guided meditations to help you reset, recharge, and realign for the week ahead. Remember, start small, stay true to yourself, and watch how much more fulfilling the journey can be. I'll see you next time.